Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I'm Jim Stump. If you'd like to send us an email, send it to counselorscouch101 at mail.com. Mail.com. I think about the counseling profession a lot because I'm involved with it every day, obviously. I think about the people I work with and how I can serve them better, etc. And one thing I'm always aware of is that the ultimate goal of a counselor should be to make their service no longer necessary, unneeded. And we don't often get to that point because the way to make yourself unneeded as a counselor is to help your client free themselves from the weight they carry around from the past. And that can be a difficult thing to do, especially these days when we aren't given enough time to see that work through. I've said it before and I'll say it again, it's true. Counseling isn't meant to last forever. That's not the point. But sometimes we do need a certain amount of time to get through issues and help someone let go of the burdens, the weight they carry from things that they experienced earlier in life. And that can take a little bit of time. With insurance companies, we usually don't get that time. So we work with people in pieces. We talk about an issue here, we talk about an issue there. And another thing is that life usually provides all that someone needs in order to free themselves from the past. It just keeps coming back in people's lives. They keep running up against the same problems, the same behaviors, the same issues. And if they're lucky, they see the way clear. Excuse me. It's still hot in California. Another heat wave is coming, they tell us. If we're lucky, we see our way clear to all the things that we've been through and we let go of the weight that it carries on it. And the way you can tell that people are carrying old business around is by the way they behave. If someone is angry all the time or always, being aggressive, you know that they got something going on that they really might want to look at. And if people are walking around meek all the time, never speaking up for themselves, they have issues as well. And there's every variation from extremely angry to extremely passive. All sorts of issues can come up and play out in various ways. And all you have to do is look at a person to see that they're carrying something or they're not. And the whole idea for the client is to achieve a clear mind where all this stuff from the past isn't running around making you crazy and affecting your decisions and your behaviors, your choices in life and like that. The whole idea is to have a clear mind, see what is going on in the here and now, what is in reality. Most of what we react to is in our memory. We're projecting our thoughts, we're projecting our past onto the present, and we're seeing it. You ever been accused of something you didn't do? And you're standing there saying, what the heck? I didn't do a thing. I don't understand what's going on here. Well, that's because someone projected something onto your behavior. That is, if you really didn't do that thing that they're accusing you of. And we have to look at all that. We say, if I'm positive I didn't do anything to this person, then it's most likely coming from some memory that they're carrying around with them. And at that point, I don't need to argue with them. I can appreciate and empathize and sympathize with what they're going through. And that helps me as a private citizen get along with other folks as well to understand that they are carrying around their past and holding out in front of themselves. It's the lens through which they look at the entire world and at life. If people are fearful, that's because they're carrying that around with them. What are we supposed to do with all that? There are many ways to go about this. You don't have to get your counseling from a counselor. I mean, it helps. It helps to be have some direction and helps to have someone to bounce ideas off of and get things reflected back to you as it would be seen from the outside. But another way to get it done is through journaling. Journaling is an excellent way to counsel yourself. Just start writing. Don't worry about what the words are. Don't worry about the way it's supposed to be done or the issues you're supposed to talk about. Just start writing down what you're thinking, what you're feeling, right? Everything will come out sooner or later. Sometimes they say just put your pencil or your pen on the paper. By the way, it's better to do it with pen or pencil on paper than it is with a computer. There just seems to be some sort of a deeper connection between the emotion involved in it and the experiencing of it if you write it down as opposed to type it on a computer. Just start typing what you're thinking and feeling. Sometimes people say, I can think of nothing. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything. Keep writing it and writing it and writing it until all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute. I remember my aunt at the lake when we were 5, and she broke the transmission on my mom's Chevy. Stuff like that. We start writing about it. The idea is to prime the pump to get all the memories flowing. It doesn't matter if the memories are good or bad or catastrophic or wonderful, but just to get them flowing. People who can't remember their past are being ruled by it because they can't let go of it. Oftentimes, I should say, a few times I've mentioned people who can't remember things. There was the lady who can't remember anything before the age, before the age of 10. But she could write, she could add and subtract and so forth. So obviously she retained her lessons from school, the early grades in school. But she didn't remember any history because something happened back there and she's repressing it. That repression will affect all of her relationships going forward through the rest of her life until she releases that. It's not a question of what the counselor wants, it's a question of what the person wants. And quite frankly, most of us hang on to all that stuff because there's a value in it. And when we're repressing thoughts we don't want to remember, the value is that the repression protects us, right? It hurts to remember painful things. And so in order to avoid that pain, we don't think about it. We make sure that the mind can't bring it up. We repress it, we shove it down. That's how it serves us, and that's how it benefits us. But the negative side is that it affects everything we do. It affects all of our decisions. It affects everything that we choose in life. And oftentimes we limit ourselves according to what we think could happen. Did you ever see a lion in a cage with a Saint Bernard? You ever see that one? I guess it's not so popular anymore, but once upon a time that used to be a thing. You'd walk by the lion tamer's cage and there'd be this big 500-600-pound lion sitting there. And over on the other side, you'd see a Saint Bernard, which was 150 pounds, something like that. And you keep wondering, why doesn't the lion tear apart the Saint Bernard? Because if I were to go in the cage, the lion would tear me apart. Well, the way it's done is when the lion is born, the lion tamer will go out and find a newborn Saint Bernard. And they will put the lion cub and the Saint Bernard puppy in the same cage together, and they'll grow up together. And as they start to come into their strength and start to challenge themselves on what they can do, the lion and the Saint Bernard will fight. But at that point in time, the Saint Bernard develops more quickly than the lion, and the Saint Bernard can beat up the lion, right? The lion learns that it can't beat up the Saint Bernard, and sooner or later it stops fighting with the Saint Bernard. But as they grow to maturity, the lion gains up to 600 pounds and the Saint Bernard is 150. But that memory of not being able to beat the Saint Bernard stays in the lion's mind and in the lion's world idea. That's the way the world is. I can't beat up the Saint Bernard, so I'm going to stop fighting him. That's how that's done. And the same thing is true with us. By the way, the same thing is true with elephants. You ever see that? Where they put a stake in the ground on a chain and it's wrapped around the elephant's foot? Obviously, the elephant can pull that little stake out of the ground. But in the beginning, the tamer will chain that elephant to something like a huge tree or something, a huge boulder, something that the elephant cannot move. And the elephant will come to the understanding or the belief that it can't move that chain out of the ground. So it won't pull on the stake when it's in there. We are all staked to the ground with little stakes that we carry around in ourselves. That's what happens. And we are all walking with the belief that we can't beat up the Saint Bernard, And the idea is to free ourselves of those erroneous beliefs that are holding us down, right? And the way we do it is to examine the thoughts that come up, examine our behaviors, examine our feelings, examine our choices. Just look at it. And however we get that done, once we free ourselves of all that baggage from the past, we can live in the here and the now. We can see things as they really are and make decisions that will affect us and hopefully beneficially going forward. They have to keep in mind that if I don't have an operatic voice, I'm probably not going to be able to sing opera. But a lot of things in life we can do, and we are not limited by physicality or history or circumstances. So we want to look at our lives as it truly is, without all the clouds and the barriers and the repressions and all the bad thoughts from the past. Free the mind, clear the mind, see things as they really are, and then proceed through life and be happier and share what you have with other people. Become fully realized, actualized human being. And that's the point of counseling. When we get to that point with a client, we know that our work is done. We are finished. We are no longer needed, and that's really the goal. And if we can't go on that journey with the client ourselves, we'll try to direct them as to how they can keep doing that work if we are not there to advise them along the way. So that's the point of it. A clear mind, free ourselves from the negativity of the past, and go out and live. Live to your fullest extent and enjoy your life, and then share that joy with everyone you come in contact with. That's the idea. That's the whole drill. That's what we try to do if we're good counselors and we care about our people. Just saying. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk with you next time.